On Larry King Now, Love, Lies, and Identity in the Digital Age. Catfish's Nev Schulman on Online Obsession.
We have a huge sort of picture window now, which is our screen life, whether it's your phone or your computer or television, movies, and we're constantly distracting ourselves from ourselves with other people's lives and information and ideas.
Why would I have less empathy in a digital world?
The less we look each other in the eyes and the less time we spend listening to each other rather than just putting out content for everyone to consume, the less we understand each other. Even if the person that you've been talking to via social media is exactly who they presented themselves to be, you're never going to get what you expect.
Plus,
what I'm hopeful is that we can redirect some of the attention and energy that gets spent online towards something good.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest, Nev Schulman. In 2010, Nev Schulman was the subject of a critically acclaimed documentary called Catfish, about his experience falling in love with a woman online who didn't turn out to be who he thought. He now hosts a show of the same name on which he unites young couples who have only connected online. Catfish currently is in its third season, and it's the #1 series on MTV. It airs Wednesday nights at 10 Eastern, 9 Central. Nev's new book, In Real Life, Love, Lies, and Identity in the Digital Age, it hits the shelves September 2nd. How did you get involved? What made a handsome young man adept, good-looking? Why would you have to go online?
So interestingly, what happened for me was very much an accident and totally unexpected and certainly unintentional. I was living in New York City, I had a production company, I had girlfriends, I was dating, and I received an email, actually via MySpace in 2007, from a young lady in Michigan who had seen some of my dance photographs and was wondering if she could use them as the subjects of some of her paintings. So it was very much sort of this playful, casual, innocent exchange at first, and I became friendly with her whole family, of course her mother, her sister.
On the phone?
Mostly actually through email and Facebook. And I didn't have any idea where it was going to go or what would happen. My brother had the insight to document it, as he is a filmmaker. And before I knew it, I was 9 months into this relationship, of which some had developed into a very romantic exchange with the older sister. And
not the girl, but the older sister.
Right, not the young lady, but her older sister. And so it was certainly not something I intended to do, but I ended up kind of falling in love with someone via the internet and phone calls, and it was long distance. And of course, when I went to finally meet her and her family, and discovered that all of them, all 14 characters with whom I had been talking and exchanging mail and letters and packages with, were actually just this one woman who had created this entire world around me and our relationship.
She pretended to be her father?
She had set up 14 different email accounts, 14 different Facebook pages, and even had 2 phones, one for her fake 19-year-old daughter and one for her.
Now, how old was she?
She was, I think, at the time 38.
You were younger?
I was 24.
Okay. Why did she agree to meet you, which would blow the whole story?
She didn't agree to meet me. We showed up. We finally just went there to the Upper Peninsula.
Were you suspicious?
Yeah, I had grown a little suspicious because I had discovered a sort of flaw in her story. One of the pieces of music she had sent me that she had claimed her and her family had recorded, as they were musicians amongst many other things, I had located on the internet under somebody else's name. And so that sort of
when you got there, what'd you find? Well,
so when we got there, not knowing exactly what the situation was, we discovered she didn't look the way she had presented herself. And her daughter, her young daughter, who I had been getting emails from and who I was apparently inspiring to be an artist, when I met her, didn't really know who I was. So it was clear that...
So she had a daughter?
She did have a daughter. And she even has an older daughter, too, but I never spoke with her. She just used...
So the whole thing was a pretend?
The whole thing was
For
pretend.
what point?
It was an escape. It was a woman who had been married very young, or had a child, that relationship hadn't worked out. She then was in a new relationship with a man who had a pair of twin sons who were very disabled, and she had become their primary caregiver, and found herself in many ways under house arrest, unable to pursue her dreams and to express herself and be creative.
You feel a little sorry for her.
Very much so, and immediately understood and sympathized with her, and saw that her situation had left her perhaps few choices in how to reach out, express, and connect with people. And so she had turned to the internet to pursue the personalities and fantasies that she had dreamed of.
Similar for you to Manti Te'o, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of similarities there. I mean, someone under interesting circumstances who wants to have a relationship and a connection with someone, but perhaps doesn't have the means.
How is this a rarity, or is there a lot of catfishing?
Well, I've made 3 seasons now of my show. We're about to shoot a 4th season.
How do you spot a catfish?
There are some more obvious indications that we've come across now, more common, such as dramatic or often cases of illness or car accidents, things that would immediately elicit your sympathy. So if you're in a relationship with someone and you mention something that makes them uncomfortable, you may not hear from them for a day or 2, and then they'll come back and say, I'm so sorry, my mom got into an accident, or I just found out my grandmother's sick, or I fell and I had to go to the hospital, or something. And so you've immediately forgotten what it was that you actually were trying to get them to tell you or do, and now you're in a position where you feel like you need to be sympathetic to them and cater to them.
The term catfish sounds feminine. Are most catfish women?
Not at all. In my experience, there is no gender that is more likely to catfish or not. It really comes down to the basic set of emotions that I think all people have.
Are they ever looking for monetary gain?
Yes, and there's an interesting overlap between catfish and sort of scam artists. A lot of people that we deal with on the show are not in it for monetary gains, but there are a tremendous number of people who do prey on people via their emotional vulnerability to elicit money.
On your show, you bring a catfish together with a victim?
Yeah, we don't know it's a catfish when we start the episode.
Why would a catfish agree to it?
Good question. In many cases, they don't. And I think there are probably hundreds and hundreds of relationships that end sort of in question mark.
Once you talk to them, they say, forget it.
Well, if we get as far as making an episode of the show, my job really becomes convincing them that this is the best opportunity they're going to get. If they really do care about this person, as they say they do, then this is the only chance they're going to have to confront them face to face, tell them the truth, and hopefully find some meaningful outcome that leads to some continued relationship.
Nev, a lot of work has to go into this because a lot of times what the person suspects is not true, right? And it is a real ongoing quest for a relationship.
Well, what I've observed, which is really interesting, is even if the person that you've been talking to via social media is exactly who they've presented themselves to be, you're never going to get what you expect. Because
really?
Even when you're face-to-face, relationships change, people change, some are more honest than others, and you can never account for chemistry or attraction or awkwardness when it comes to person-to-person.
Have any gotten married?
We had a couple that got engaged, but like any relationship, it didn't last.
Are we all catfish? Up next, Nev on the lies we almost all tell online, except me. Plus, how our digital lives may be affecting our sense of empathy. Stay with us. The book In Real Life, Love, Lies, and Identity in the Digital Age. The guest is Nev Schulman, the host of MTV's hot show, Catfish. I want to quote something from your book. You write, more than ever, people are choosing to invest more in their digital lives than in their everyday experiences. An entire generation has shifted to feeling more satisfied by posting a photo on Instagram or receiving 100 likes on a Facebook comment than by going to a party and interacting in person with their peers. I noticed this I have 2 sons, one's 15, one's 14, my 15-year-old. The other day he said, I met this girl, I haven't talked to her in a while. I said, why don't you call her? He said, okay. He didn't call her, he texted her. Why?
It's easier.
But it's not real.
Well, it's not real, but you don't have to be as vulnerable. There's not as much of a risk. You don't potentially get embarrassed or turned away. There's no accountability. So you can connect with lots of people, but if they don't like you or if you don't like them, it's very easy to ignore or turn off or disengage.
And you can break off a relationship.
Very easily,
You can say no easier.
It's a lot harder to sit in front of someone and break up and look at them cry and feel their emotion than it is to text them. And
doing it that way, does that encourage people to lie?
yeah, I think the fact that we're all now so much more invested in our digital selves gives us permission to embellish here and there and ignore the things we don't like about ourselves. And
so are you saying
sort of
we all
put
do
our
that?
best foot forward?
We all try. Well, you try to look good on a date.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a new concept.
No.
But I think there's a lot more access now because at least then you had to go on the date. You had to meet somebody, exchange number. There was a process, a physical process by which you had to be a human being. Now people are asking each other out digitally, using a digital profile that may or may not be totally honest. They're organizing everything. They're communicating and getting to know each other that way, and there's no real sense of human connection.
You have 1.4 million likes on Facebook. You have 735,000 followers on Twitter. You have 500,000 followers on Instagram. What does that say to you?
Honestly, it's pressure. I feel a tremendous obligation. I'm also very pleased that I have a platform because I believe that amongst a majority of social media celebrities who don't particularly have good moral grounds or anything positive to say, I have an opportunity to turn the tide, perhaps.
Do you realize that something bad that happened to you turned into a whole career for you?
I think about it all the time.
You ought to thank that woman.
I do. I thank her in my book, and I think about that all the time.
A 2010 University of Michigan study found that students who began college after the year 2000 had empathy levels 40% lower than those who came before them. Obama, too, has talked about an empathy deficit in this country. Why would I have less empathy in a digital world?
I think the less we look each other in the eyes and the less time we spend listening to each other rather than just putting out content for everyone to consume, the less we understand each other. And as a result, the less likely we are to actually feel and be felt. And it's a real thing. It's happening. I feel it myself. I'm so used to just consuming what I want and disregarding what I don't want that I don't have to engage the feelings that I don't want to engage. And when we curate our emotions based on what's easy for us, we lose touch with the ability to connect with people who are going through something difficult.
So older people, like myself included, I don't have any problems with empathy because I don't do this.
Sure.
And I like a conversation. I like the talk.
Yeah.
So we hear of so many pluses to the internet. Is this a giant minus?
You know, I don't think it's the internet's fault. I don't think it's social media's fault. I think it's simply tapped into a human instinct or some natural course of action that people want to express themselves. They want attention. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. But when there are no rules or when there's no repercussions for the decisions you make, people don't always tend to make the right decisions or the best decisions.
Should social media be enforcing stricter age minimums? We'll get Nev's thoughts on that and how to harness the internet for good. We're back with Nev Schulman. He is the author of In Real Life, Love, Lies, and Identity in the Digital Age. He hosts MTV's hot show, Catfish. Now, one downside, I went out to dinner the other night with 4 friends. I was by myself. I was there with 4 friends, but they were all on their iPhones. That's terrible. It's also rude. How do you push that back? These people are addicted.
Yes, I agree. It's very much an addiction.
There's no plus to that.
And I can't say that I'm not guilty of the same disengagement. How do you fix that? I mean, there are some playful, sort of very real practices that you can start to do. sometimes when I'm with friends and we all look around and we realize we're all on our phones, we play a game where everyone has to put their phones in the middle of the table, and the first person to pick up their phone then has to pick up the check for the meal. But it's tough because we put so much pressure on ourselves to now stay engaged and informed, and we feel as though we're missing out if we're not constantly part of the stream. And
can we get young people offline, or is that impossible?
I don't think we can get people offline immediately. And I don't even know if it's necessarily the right thing to do. What I'm hopeful is that we can redirect some of the attention and energy that gets spent online towards something good.
Tell me about the digital detox trend.
Yeah, I mean, I hear about it more and more, and I mention it in the book that there are a lot of people now who are really making an effort to limit their digital intake via tech Sabbaths, which is sort of a day of the week where you just turn your phone off and you don't look at it, or other techniques like I mentioned earlier.
Do you have rules for yourself?
I have rules. I don't know if they're necessarily ways to stop using social media, but for example, whenever I'm in a situation that I'm excited about, this would be a good example, I say to myself, why do you need to take a picture of this? Why do you need to share this with other people instead of just being here, being present, and really taking it in for yourself? And it's hard because we've all trained ourselves to want to outwardly show and share everything that we do that we're excited about, because otherwise it didn't happen, or if you didn't post it, it's not real.
But then the word excite doesn't mean anything. It's like breaking news on television. Breaking news, the sun came up this morning. If you send out a picture of everything, then it's all nothing.
Right. So yeah, I do my best to really filter everything that I share through a number of questions and ideas. Is this significant? Is this meaningful? Does this have some kind of a message? What can people take away from this?
Give me some tips that people should look out for in this internet relationship game.
Well, the focus that I've sort of taken is inward. We have a huge sort of picture window now, which is our screen life, whether it's your phone or your computer or television, movies, and we're constantly distracting ourselves from ourselves with other people's lives and information and ideas. And when it comes to relationships, I think a lot of people now are looking for someone to somehow fix themselves, fix their lives, distract them, take them away. It's a fantasy or an escape. And if you're really serious about meeting someone and you're going to use the internet to do that, you have to be even more self-aware and careful and clear with yourself about what your intentions are and what it is that you're actually looking for, so that you don't end up finding someone who simply distracts you or enables you to feel a way that you don't want to feel.
Are there young kids prey to this? Like, could a 14-year-old fall into a love relationship with someone dangerous?
If I told you that a majority of the emails that I get to my Catfish account are teenagers, in real 12, 13, 14, the first line is always, I'm crazy in love. I know I'm only 13, but I really love this person, and I want to meet them so badly, but they live far away, or I don't know if they're really, and it blows my mind. I don't even remember feeling love until well into my sort of late teens, early 20s.
How much of it gets sexual?
It's a good question. I don't know, because it's not something that I address. I'm not involved in that area of online relationships. But on my show, in most cases, there's a lot of flirtation, there's sext messaging, occasionally there are inappropriate photo sharing exchanges, so it definitely happens.
You fell into this because of what happened to you, and now it's your career. You ever wish you hadn't had this? I mean, you've been successful, so
yeah.
Is there a downside?
If there is, it's not something that I think would be different in any other career. You know, there's expectations that I put on myself. There's sometimes a fear that perhaps I'm going down this path, and is it really what I want, or is it something that just happened and I'm making the best of it? So I think this was honestly the best thing that could have happened to me.
Nev will answer some of your questions after we play a game of If You Only Knew, the digital edition. Don't go away. We're back with Nev Schulman. You mentioned photographing dancers. You still do that?
It's been a little while. I'm still passionate about
How did you come in to do
ballet. I came into the photography world and ballet because I was very fortunate. My parents were always supporters of dance. I grew up dancing with Jacques D'Amboise in his youth organization, National Dance
How's he
Institute.
doing? Is he still around?
He's great.
I
Yeah,
love
he's
Jacques
doing well.
D'Amboise.
And so I've always been involved and around dance. And when I started taking pictures, it, to me, was the most obvious and inspiring thing I could photograph because it's so inherently beautiful.
One of the great interviews I ever had was with Jacques D'Amboise. I did an hour and a half on dancing. We have some social media questions for you. Beeks 1983 tweets, "What's the worst catfish you've ever seen?"
I think maybe the worst was a young lady who had created a profile, inserted herself into a sort of high school community in a town next door to hers, and was really just wreaking havoc. She was tearing friendships apart. She was starting rumors, getting people riled up over nothing. And when we finally found her and confronted her about it, we discovered she was an unhappy person and the victim of her own issues and was basically just sort of channeling that onto other people.
Lynn's Eric Thomas tweets, "Do you think the progression of how we interact will resemble something like Spike Jonze's movie Her?"
Yeah, I actually was really moved by that film. I think it very closely mirrors what I see on the show, which is people falling in love with an online or electronic idea of love, which is more a reflection of themselves and it's more selfish than they realize. But it's a, yeah,
I get it. Talon D wants to know if you would recommend digital dating to your own children.
I don't think so.
Me too. Rome 1213 via Instagram. "Why are all the catfishes either weird, not good looking, or overweight? Can we get an episode where a catfish is really a good catch?"
You know, it's interesting. I don't think catfish are specifically those qualities or not. It's just people who are struggling, who are unhappy or lonely or insecure.
Sam Caroling tweets, "Can an exclusively digital relationship ever be as meaningful as an in-person one?" I would say no.
I would, if I'm answering quickly, would also say no.
At Dating Insider tweets, "The dating industry refuses to take member safety seriously. What can singles do to remain safe?"
I mean, there's a number of ways you can protect yourself. Obviously, giving out your full name or your address or anything like that's never a great idea if someone is, in fact, trying to scam you. And then, you know, using video chat is a good step to take before getting too involved with someone. And then, of course, meeting them with friends in a social setting in a public space is also a good idea. Seemingly common sense stuff.
We finished the game, little game of If You Only Knew. First person you ever kissed? Is this embarrassing?
No, I'm just, I'm almost just embarrassed that I can't
You don't have to remember.
Sure.
This ain't a courtroom. Next question. First time you remember going online?
First time. I'm pretty sure it was, I mean, I don't remember the time. I remember sitting at my desk on the Upper West Side. I think I was in 5th or 6th grade with one of those AOL free trial CDs, dialing up.
How old were you when you got Facebook?
I was, I think, a sophomore in college, so I was 17 or 18.
Something you wish you could change about yourself?
Whew. Too many to list. I'd like to be more empathetic.
Uh-huh. Vine or Instagram?
Well, I use both, but I think I'm more adept at Instagram.
Digital acronym you'd like to get rid of?
BAE.
Would you rather go without Twitter for a month or shave an eyebrow?
I'd much rather go without Twitter forever.
3 people worth following on social media?
Oh, that's easy. Nicholas Megalis, Jerome Jar, and Chris Carm.
Best thing about the internet?
The idea that it has turned our entire world into a single community.
The last time you lied about something online?
I don't think I lie
Good.
online.
What's the number one piece of advice you'd offer millennials about the way they engage online?
I think I would say you don't need a certain number of friends, just a number of friends you can be certain of.
Well said. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
I'd either be wrenching as a mechanic at a car shop or probably in prison.
Thanks, Nev. What a choice. Nev Schulman, I want to thank my guest. The book is In Real Life, Love, Lies, and Identity in the Digital Age. And in the event you can't kick your social media obsession, you could find me on Twitter at KingsThings. But you'll never see me on Vine, which I have no idea what that is. See you next time.